that we had appropriated that we haven't spent for that purpose?
My rough estimate that I could give you would be in the ballpark, somewhere around 3,000–4,000, I think, but I have to confirm that with the ladies downstairs because I'm not sure.
That's fine. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, Representative Babson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't understand, frankly, why the lawnmower is charged to the farm. The farm doesn't use it to mow any of its fields or do any of its work. It's purchased primarily to do the lawn mowing for this building, the old nursing home, and the new nursing home, and around the jail. Why does the farm have to carry that expense in its budget?
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, what happens is each building gets charged for maintenance, like lawn mowing, like snow plowing, like shoveling off the walks, and so forth. Who else would do that? I'm not sure. The farm has done it in the past. I guess that's my answer.
So
it shows up as a revenue, so it balances out.
So if I might just expand on that. The purchase or the charge of the lawnmower to the farm, that's the cost of their operation so that they can provide the service around the complex.
Correct.
The revenue comes from various components of the complex back in the farm revenue. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Representative.
May I ask the commissioners what they are charging hourly for the lawnmower and the worker?
You have that?
I believe that it's around $50 an hour. But to add to the Commissioner's comment that it's something since I've been here that we've had an issue with, is I believe that the charges that are being charged to each building primarily only cover the wages of the employees and the benefits that are associated with that. So yes, the farm does pick up this equipment because that's how it's been, but not necessarily do we per se make money off of these other departments to pay for that equipment. We're only getting our refund enough to pay for the salaries of these employees that are doing those work for the other departments. So there's, it's just how we've done it because we use the equipment, but we're not necessarily out making money off these other departments. We're only charging enough to get our labor costs for the employees back.
Commissioner Sorensen, do you have a comment or recommendation on how that might be handled in a better way, or it might be improved somehow?
Well, like Will says, it's always been done that way. I'm not sure who else would do that. I think a while back we went out several years ago to see if any private company would come in and do it, and they gave us a figure, and it was a long time ago, so I don't remember what it was. We also went out here fairly recently to get I think a snow plowing estimate.
Yes, sir.
And as you recall, it was going to be somewhere around $95,000 a year to do the snow plowing around the facility.
So just to be sure that we're correct on this, then there is no revenue that accrues to the farm in excess of the actual salary cost, the hourly cost. Is that correct?
I'd have to go back and look at the figures, but I think he's right. It's just enough to cover the salary of the people that are doing the work.
I can't say that it right down to the penny, but I'm just saying that that's approximately what the hourly rates are charged is to cover the employees' wages.
Yeah.
Okay. Representative McConkey, and then...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we all recognize that the farm is not just the farm. The farm takes care of all the external maintenance, the plowing, the mowing. They are the ones who have the possession of that equipment. They have to maintain it, take care of it. I see no problem with that equipment being on the farm's budget. It's just a normal thing, I would think. They're the ones that have to do it.
Yes.
Yeah, they're showing the revenue. I assume it's maintenance income. You look on page 2, the revenue of $15,000 for the year, and it shows the actual dollars as of 9/30 at $18,570. So the revenue, or what's being charged to the other places is, their receipts have been greater than what has been budgeted. So, I don't know exactly what happens to that money.
Yes, Will, go ahead.
Could I try to help answer that?
Sure.
If you look right below, there's a use of equipment line, and you notice that it's budgeted 45,000, but we only turned in somewhere around 29,000, I believe, if I'm looking at the same numbers as you are now. Those two line items, what happens is I fill out a piece of paperwork. Unfortunately, this is a lot of paper trail of how we do this, but I fill out a piece of paperwork saying that I worked at the administration building, I was driving the backhoe, and there's a certain charge, and that goes to one of the secretaries who figures that out into a money-wise and puts it in there. So sometimes those numbers might not add up exactly because maybe she got confused on whether I was driving the backhoe or the truck, and there's a differently hourly thing, but they're basically just journal entries, and both of that money, that's where that comes from, is both of those lines. They're what I don't consider them real hard cash that's coming into the county. Those are just justification of why we're working at the different buildings.
Representative Merrill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to go back. I think I must have misunderstood something, so I want to clarify it. You mentioned that the $50 an hour basically covered the wages of the people doing it. $50 an hour works out to be $104,000 a year. That can't be right for more than one.
No, sir. It does cover. It would cover our gas.
Okay, I understood you to say it was just the wages that the people working.
Right. It would also cover things like the gas. What I'm saying is it's not enough money for capital expenditures to help offset. It's not like we're making money. We're trying to recoup our trimmer line, our gas, all those things would be into that. You know, $50 an hour isn't when they're out pushing a lawnmower. That includes when they're driving a truck and hauling materials.
Wherever it is, they're making $104,000 a year, right?
No.
But based on $50 an hour, if you work a 52-hour
Doesn't
week.
that cover maintenance? Doesn't that cover the equipment too?
It does. It covers the expenses of the equipment. Not necessarily the purchase of the equipment, but the expenses of the equipment.
The use of the equipment.
Okay. Snow removal.
Representative McConkey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Expanding on that conversation a little, looking ahead when you add your bagging system onto your lawnmower, so it would seem that you're going to be adjusting your rate when you're using that bagging system, so we can recuperate that money also, I would assume.
No, sir. I don't plan to. The problem I've had in this last year or so is there are not as many inmates available to come out and do the work, always. So I have to make things efficient to be able to still get the work done with less workers sometimes. Sometimes that can vary to what's in the jail at the time, to what I get, but I need to make sure that the job still gets done whether they're available over there or not. And this just helps make it a little more efficient to do that.
Yes, go ahead.
I could. Perhaps for another time, but a philosophical discussion on the farm. It would seem at times you're torn between your duties that need to get done for maintenance and your duties that need to be done farm-related. Expanding on Representative Babson's point of whether these costs should be in your department or not and where they're charged. But it would seem that you have issues sometimes whether the need is to get those blueberry plants in the ground or whether it is to put up a building. And I'm sure this happens to you on others. Do you find this dual role something that's very comfortable and works equitably for both departments?
I would say that first, when I evaluate all of the 4 different departments that we do on a daily basis, the work that we do, the farm is usually on the bottom of the list. Most things on the farm, except maybe in the summertime when the hay needs to be made, but even that, if I need to go down and fix a hydrant or something in the village, that's going to take precedence over most of the farm things. So anything with the water and the sewer and the maintenance here are usually the first things on the list that we take care of on a daily basis. The farm is the things that come next because that's just the precedence of things that need to be done around here.
Lastly?
Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to go back to a favorite discussion. We had done an educational program this year of the rearing of piglets, and I'm sure that was a success. Is there monies, are we out of the pig business at this point in time? Are the pigs housed on here? I saw in a meeting a couple weeks ago that, if I understood correctly, that looking to breed pigs or hogs, whatever it is you have. Could you update me where we are with pigs?
Yes, sir. It was a very successful program that I believe benefited the community. We had 3 different sessions. We had one, I want to say it was in June. We had one at Farm Day, which had a very large turnout. And then we had a third one later in the year, late September, early October. There was a lot of interest. I had received many donations, not only money donations, but also equipment donations from people of the public, which the farm is very grateful that took place. And amongst those conversations and those classes that we had, it was discovered that there was a lot of interest in seeing, these were just summertime pigs that we did, and seeing about classes about rearing piglets, as you suggested. So we have 2 pigs that we've currently kept that are bred, assuming and hoping that they're bred, and we'll have piglets in the springtime that we, in turn, continue to work with the Cooperative Extension on educating people with that.
Thank you. Are the pigs here on property?
Yes, sir.
Do we sell
And
them?
is there a item or is that program being totally volunteer paid for? Is there any money in here for that?
There's no money in here for that, sir. It's totally being volunteered. There's virtually no cost to the county. It's all been pretty much by myself and through the donations.
And I know you've done a great job with that. When you're doing your square foot analysis of what we have, could you break down for me how many square feet is dedicated to that production?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, Representative Babson.
This was all discussed a couple of years ago, Representative Conti. Will owns the pigs and is raising the pigs, and the deal was he could keep them here on the county if he gave the three. So yes, there's a very minimal amount of money goes into electricity if he leaves the lights on one night, but other than that, it's a voluntary program, and people have donated money and equipment to keep it going.
I understand that point, Representative Babson. My question is, how much space are we devoting to it? And I was just asking if there was money that was being appropriated in the budget for that.
The answer to that question is there's no money appropriated in the budget.
Thank you.
Any questions on anything else, Will, that you wanted to present as a change in your budget or needs? Representative Babson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to just follow up on Representative Merrill. Yes, $105,000 is a lot, but they don't mow the lawn in the winter, Harry, and part of that is in snow removal. That's all in that line item.
Well, Representative Babson, if I may, $100,000 for a salary is quite a lot, no matter what they're doing.
Well, that's true, but I'm just saying, I didn't want you to think it was all lawn
No,
mowing.
okay, no, okay, fine.
Especially when.
Yes, Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to say, Will, that I'm not really familiar with every department head in the county. Most of them do a really good job, but there are 2 who I think do a totally outstanding job, and you're one of them.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Anything else on the expenditure side?
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Go ahead, Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for taking my question. Thank you so much for your presentation, Will. Very informative. And certainly if Representative McCarthy thinks you do an outstanding job, I think that's testament to certainly me that you do an outstanding job, because I don't think he thinks I do that great of a job, so you must be a Superman when it comes to farming.
He's a good one.
The thing that I found through the course of this conversation was that you felt that perhaps that when you bill out your hourly rates for particular equipments, that those equipments were only being billed such that for their expenditure and not for their their immediate expense, but not for their capital expenditure. That you weren't billing for that. You were only billing for what it costs for the gas and the oil, let's say, for the truck, and maybe some hydraulic fluid. I'm not sure, but that the amount of money that you're charging is not sufficient to really cover the true cost of the use of the equipment, which would be also amortizing that piece of equipment. And at least that's the feeling that I got from what you were discussing. So I would suggest that, since this is all shuffling paper, that perhaps the accounting department should take a little closer look at what other equipment is being rented for, to get a better idea of what our real cost is. For two reasons. Number one, not only will it help you in justification of your department and what goes on there, but it will also help in issues of comparing your actual cost of what it takes to do something versus if we bid it out, which we seem to always have a kind of a disparity of, well, here's what it costs the county, and here's what it costs someone from the private sector. Because the guy from the private sector, I guarantee you, if he's going to be in business for very long, is including the cost of amortizing his equipment into what he charges to do the job. So I think that those things ultimately would be best for the county, and I would suggest to the commissioners that Kathy, Gary, and we'll get together and try to get these billable hours equivalent to what it might be in the market, or at least it start including some of the amortization of these costs, because you obviously for your capital expenditures are difficult. It's difficult for you to justify when you're buying something based on the revenue that you're producing.
Representative Reyes.
I think following up on Representative Alvin's remarks, what really makes the most sense is to have a maintenance department who's charged with taking care of all of these facilities, and all the billing goes right there, so you don't have the shuffling and the paperwork that poor Will spends 2 hours a day doing that's unnecessary.
Commissioner Sorensen.
He's also responsible for the maintenance. So whether it goes under the farm or it goes under the maintenance, maybe that's where it should go.
But if there was a department that was maintenance, Mr. Commissioner,
yep,
then it would all go there, and you wouldn't have to worry and stop the shuffling around and charging this building and that building and the other building, and have it all one department that does the work.
Okay. And maintenance does not derive any revenue.
Right.
It's an expense.
That's right.
Well, and then Representative.
I hate to open up a can of worms, but since we're on this conversation, and I'll probably have my foot wrong, but this is a complicated thing, and I've come up with a couple of solutions that I'm hoping to present to the commissioners in the future. But along this conversation is basically, my point was, with the snow plowing, for example, I did an amortization that you're talking about last year, sir, and I did get bids. They're going to come in, they need to make money, because someone's bidding to do a snowplow, they need to make money. We're not here to make money, we're here to get the job done. Okay, and that was a huge difference. But if you look at the farm budget, which I run, and I run an outside maintenance budget, which I run, the reason why we do all this paperwork is to justify those salaries that the farm's being charged for doing maintenance work. So maybe a quick solution in my mind was, if you turn around and say, okay, let's take these employees that primarily, when I talked to Mr. McConkey, the water, sewer, and maintenance are higher priorities than the farm of what we have to get done around here, and I have to schedule that accordingly. Maybe you move their salaries into the maintenance, and there's no of this moving money around, and we just say how many employees actually would work at the farm to do that amount of work would only be there. Now, I probably said something I shouldn't have said, but I'm just trying to simplify something that, we've had a complicated system around here for many years that many of us here have inherited as we've come in to this place, and maybe we could try to simplify it a little bit by putting the people. I'm not saying we need to create some massive department, hire another person or anything like that. I'm just saying within my few budgets that I have right here, we could maybe minimize some of this paperwork and put people where they need to be put.
Representative McCarthy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. what would you think about if we change the name, the budget, and everything else, from just farm to farm/exterior maintenance, and combine those budgets?
That's what we have.
The only disagreement I would have with that, because that's essentially kind of what we do, and we take two budgets and put them together. The part of me that, you know, I'm a farmer at heart, and I do the maintenance stuff around here, but I love the farming. And unfortunately, we've seen a lot of our county farms struggle in this state. And I would hate for you, or some new, you might understand it because you'd be here, but some new person comes in, and they look at my expenditures, and then they look at my revenues, and they say, this farm is losing $200,000, even though that farm is absorbing the maintenance costs here. So, to defend, the farm, I'd almost like to keep the farm's expenditures and revenue separate so that you can see we're not losing a ton of money here on the Carroll County farm.
A follow-up, sir? Couldn't you do it like the sheriff does it? Have two really separate budgets, one for the sheriff, one for the dispatch. You could have one for the farm and one for exterior maintenance. You'd actually have two budgets with a combined unit.
And essentially we do. I believe that we do.
I know, but
right.
it seems like some don't understand that.
Exactly, I agree with you, sir.
Just a side comment. I wonder if it might be appropriate for the Farm Subcommittee to take a look at some of those issues that are coming up, rather than to keep going over them here, because we're not getting a clear direction. I think the comments are out, the concerns are out there, but perhaps the subcommittee might be, they really are familiar with the work of the farm and the maintenance as well, and they might be able to come up with folding in some of those concerns that have been expressed this morning. Representative Umberger.
Yes, I'm sure that the reason that we do the maintenance the way we do it, right, wrong, or indifferent, is to show the true cost of operating the nursing home, the administrative building, and the jail. But if we're going to show the true cost, and we're really not moving money around, I mean, we're not, as I hear it, we're not charging the taxpayers any extra money other than what, you know, the farm is provided. But we are trying to identify the actual cost. And so since if we are not charging the taxpayers any extra money for that service, then we can probably go to the quote-unquote exact cost of what that is, to include all of the things like amortization and so on into that cost. Because right now we are not showing the true cost of service to those organizations. We are simply, you know, showing a nominal cost. Then the revenue is $15,000 and $45,000. So our, you know, what we're showing in the budget is a $60,000 cost for outside maintenance, which probably is not accurate. So I just leave it at that, and I agree with Representative Fleck that the Farm Subcommittee needs to sort this out and figure out what is the true cost. And we as a delegation need to recognize that there is a true cost, and that if we need to set up a capital reserve, which I totally agree with, for purchase of new equipment for the farm, then we should in fact tell them to do that and put that $10,000.
We can do that.
Or $9,500 into the capital reserve that we're trying to save money. Instead of, as it sounds to me, what they're doing right now is that they're encumbering the funds. Yeah, that's what they're doing. They're encumbering funds, and that's what they're doing. They're encumbering funds so that perhaps next year they can add more to it. And that is really not the way to handle this. Encumbered funds, you have to have supposedly a contract, you know, a something out there that you know that within the next few months you're going to spend. You shouldn't be saving it through encumbered funds.
Yes, Commissioner Sorensen.
I think Representative Umberger is correct. That was the commissioner's mistake. We should have put it into capital expenses and not under new equipment. We can do that.
And there's really no need for us to take any, as a delegation, to take any other action at this point, if you understand that's the direction. That's just simply an accounting process to set up that account.
And I think she's also correct in that we try to put the expenses where they belong, so we know what it costs the nursing home to do the plowing, to do the lawn mowing. We know what it costs administration building to do that, the jail. We can change that if you want to do that.
So you'll be working with the subcommittee, I'm sure.
Yep.
Yes. Representative McCarthy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a comment. If you subtract $9,000 from your budget to put into the capital reserve, so that you do have it.
Yep.
If you take your income and subtract it from what you have for a budget, the cost of the farm is less than $50,000.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
I would say even less than that.
Less than that.
I don't necessarily always spend all the money that's appropriated. I try to give some back as much as possible, so.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, just for clarification, what is the purchase resale line?
Yes, ma'am. I'm kind of glad you brought that up. What we do with that is we buy, at times when we don't have wood cuts going on here, we buy wood in, log length, and we process it up, and then we sell it. So that's a line to be able to buy that.
Oh, okay.
I asked, due to budgetary constraints, we had the commissioners had to make decisions they did. I had asked for an extra $2,000 when I proposed the budget because pulpwood has gone up. This last time I bought pulpwood, I try to buy 10 loads a year. It's gone up about $20 a cord, which is approximately $200 a load, and I like to get 10 loads, so I asked for an extra $2,000 to increase that line, which obviously means I have to increase, this next year we're going to have to increase our price on wood because wood's going up. We, unfortunately, to be able to keep things in line with what was asked from the delegation, the commissioners had to make the decision to take that out and hope that we get more wood off of the property with the cut that we're going to do in the future. I believe that was the rationale for doing that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Representative Knox.
Just kind of as a perhaps concluding comment, we're kind of like a finance committee here, in my view, for the most part, and our job is to question, even be critical, and find better ways to do it. And I think your job is a difficult job, but I'm going to say there isn't a delegate here or not here who doesn't think you're doing a really good job. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. If there are no other questions or comments on your part, Will, for the expenditure side, do you want to go over to the revenue side and see what?
Yes, sir, we can do that.
It's on page 2 of the revenue worksheet.
I'm not sure if you guys have final numbers or third quarter numbers on yours.
They get it through September.
Yes, okay. So there is going to be a difference in that. Basically, if we look at the bottom lines from what I predicted that I would make last year, compared to what I'm predicting to make this year, we're looking at a $4,000 difference. The majority of that is going to be made up in wood sales. You see that I went from $26,000 to $30,000. This year, I believe that when the final numbers come out, I've made over $30,000. So I'm confident that the way this campfire wood process is going, we went from, just to recap on this, we went from 5,000 bags last year when I talked to folks at this time, because he really doesn't commit to me an exact number or closer to a number until springtime when campgrounds start opening. He asked for 8,000 bags last year. So we increased up to 8,000. Unfortunately, we had the Hurricane Irene we all remember, came through and closed down some of our state parks. I'm sure you folks hear about that down there in Concord. So we only got rid of 7,000. We were about 1,000 short, or just shy of 1,000 short that we didn't sell. But 7,000 was an increase over the 5,000 we